transit operators on the call in the meeting. I cannot flex highway funds for operating assistance. So
I had to ask.
yes, and I actually found that out last year, so just last year. I do realize your need, and I do have I am planning to set up a discussion to talk about that internally, at least to begin with, see what our options are and how we could help. Because right now, I don't see us using this full 3.8 now that we have available. So I do imagine I will be flexing some of it to transit. I don't know, and like I said, I want to talk with Alan and Lisa and Leah, and first off, and then we'll talk with transit operators on what plans we have to help supplement you guys's.
Charles,
Okay.
This is Eric Wolverton with American Structure Point.
Yes.
Chris Slatus with St. John dropped off. He's having some issues getting back on. But can we revisit the Klein Avenue extension in your spreadsheet? I believe you had $960,000 federal towards engineering. We've completed a contract with the town, which will actually be approved at town council tomorrow. So I do have a revised value if you want to enter that for the 80% of engineering.
So what is your contract then?
The 80% total is $1,066,120.
What's your total amount?
Total amount is $1,332,650.
Okay, we've got that fixed in there then.
Thank you.
Charles, it's Bob Thompson.
Yes.
I want to go back to Willow Creek. I know I was emailing you earlier this week about items on that and everything like that. And I was just wondering if I could get Chris Murphy to explain. And Eric, just looking at phase 2 again. I mean, we're pretty much set and ready to go with phase 2, which is the bridges over 130.
Yeah, we can discuss that, and maybe that's where we discuss it as just to fill everybody in. Porter County is asking for funds to begin phase 2 of the Willow Creek Road, but the problem is that they did not submit anything in the last NOFA for phase 2. So we would be sidestepping the NOFA process if we awarded any funds to this project. Is there any comments on that?
Is it intended to be used in 22? The funding?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's the, it sort of helps, right?
It does help.
Yeah. So my point, I guess, what I'm hearing is we're 3 million-ish surplus funds, and we have a project that we know for a fact is transformative project that we've been talking about for several years now. But I get the point, right? We're sort of bypassing the NOFA process.
Correct. Everything you said, Dean, was correct.
Charles, can we get some clarity? I'm not, again, I don't know what the process is. From what you've been saying, this is totally a new process for me when it comes to the CMAQ stuff. I'd like to get some clarity on that 2022 funding for the rapid bus before, I mean, I just don't know whether or not that's going to be a 22 or 23 project yet, which kind of puts me in the dark as to how to plan and whether or not, what to consider putting in 22 pending that.
So as going back to your project, GPTC and the Grant Street Hobart, we need to, I'm not sure of the process myself. Okay.
Because being in the dark, yeah, it's kind of difficult to determine how to treat a project that hasn't put in a NOFA response yet. As Dean mentioned. So that kind of puts me in a precarious position, I guess you could say.
Well, but you're requesting $750,000.
Right.
So that would put us at $3 million. If GPTC was eligible, if GPTC received the funds in 2022, we'd still have $3.7 million or $3.3 million left over.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we have 3.7 million. So
you're saying there's room for both?
What was that?
So you're saying there's room?
There's room. There's plenty of room.
Yeah, I think the combination of those two in particular would be a nice balance of transit and transformative expansion, because that's an expansion project, right? Willow Creek?
Yes, that's a
Right.
transformative project. It's an expansion project. And so is Grant Street.
That gives you the balance right there, I guess you could say.
Right.
Charles, if we're looking at the Willow Creek project, I'd certainly like to evaluate what kind of PE we could add to the Kennedy phases and get started on those early with those same monies.
Okay. I mean, that is a perfectly valid, I mean, both Kennedy Avenue and Willow Creek are both transformative projects. So I guess, if we are going to discuss bringing one into the tip, then we would need to discuss bringing, I mean, both of those are in the same category.
I mean, I think we're asking, the same thing that Porter County's asking for Willow Creek. And I think we've had our approvals longer. We've been in line longer than them.
And I actually think those other projects are in the tip.
I don't believe we have PE phases in them though.
No,
right away
not PE
phases.
phases, but you're in the, I'd have to look.
Well, before we make final decisions on the 23 fiscal 23 and fiscal 24 funds, I'd like to review that at length with you.
Okay. Do you want to talk those now, or do you want to talk those offline, Jeff?
I'd like to probably talk about them offline. It's nothing that we have to make a decision on today because they're future funds. And I'd like to get Tricia from DLZ involved in those conversations as well. She has a better handle on what's approved and when she's going to need those funds for PE.
Okay. Okay, we can discuss that. We can discuss those offline. Yes,
Okay.
Charles, so if I understand right, Porter County and Cherville aside, we've exhausted every place that this funds could go, and you say you have a balance of what left?
currently I have a balance of 3.7 million.
Okay. And then Bob, what kind of monies are you talking about?
Then I'm gonna have to refer to Eric and Chris. They shared it with me as far as the phase 2 PE engineering for it, but right off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Eric, do you have that number available?
I'm looking for that right now.
Thank you.
Charles, this is Dwayne Overson, Lake County Highway. We had some previous discussions on that 45th Avenue, the right-of-way acquisition on that. And I think there's maybe about $200,000 we might be able still be able to use to wholly fund that.
Yes, we did. We did give Lake County some funds, 800,000. Or no, it was 600,000. We gave them $600,000. The request was for 800,000, I think.
Yeah.
So we gave you 600,000 just to slide that in there and keep you going. And hopefully after next month, we can get you the other 200,000. And that should make you at a full 80%.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Charles, that
Yes,
that request from Porter County for PE for phase 2 of Willow Creek Road is for 832,000 federal.
okay. This is something I would want, I think we should vote on.
Understand?
Are those fiscal 2023 funds or 22 funds?
Fiscal year 2022, Jeff.
That's the funds that we've got to get committed right away.
Yes,
Right.
So if we don't commit these funds, we lose them.
yes, well, what I'll end up by doing is I'm gonna get with transit and figure out how we can use those for transit in our region, so we don't lose them. So even then, we're talking, looks like we're talking about $2 million if we fund everything, including GPTC's Grant Street. That's $2 million we'll have left over now. And like I said, we would need to vote on that.
Are you looking for a motion?
Thank you.
I'll second the motion, whatever it is.
So the motion then, Jeff,
I will make the motion that we allow PE funds to be assigned to Willow Creek Phase 2, aside from the NOFA process. It is a legacy project and it's highly unlikely that it wouldn't survive the NOFA anyway.
Is there any just?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Cherville and a second by George Topol. Is there any discussion on that?
I couldn't agree more with Jeff's motion.
Okay. Candace, can you go through a roll call?
Yes.
And I think you can just go through, call the people that we know are here,
Correct.
and then ask for anybody else at the end.
Lake County,
Aye.
Porter County,
Aye.
Chesterton,
Yes.
Crown Point,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Hammond,
Yes.
Lake Station. My apologies, Hobart.
Yes.
Thank you. Maryville,
Yes.
thank you. Portage,
Yes.
thank you. Cherville,
Yes.
thank you. Valparaiso,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Union Township,
Yes.
Kevin Brightsky,
Yes.
thank you. St. John, Chris Salatas, St. John, who wasn't able to get back on. GPTC,
Yes.
Opportunity Enterprises,
Yes.
Valparaiso Best Schrader,
Yes.
South Shore Clean Cities.
Yes.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? That concludes roll call.
How much was that, Eric, total amount for PE?
What was the question, Charles? I'm sorry you broke up.
How much was that for total for PE for phase 2?
Willow Creek?
Yes.
Yeah, as I think Chris mentioned, 832,000 federal, 1.04 million total.
Okay. We will work with, I will work with Bob. Bobby and I will get together and get all the paperwork done and get this into the amendment. We are going to be putting out the next amendment is going to be for the March. So it's going to have to go into public comment sometime in the next 2 weeks. Just so we know, everybody knows. Normally it wouldn't be until April, but with the timing and everything, I want to hurry up and get this done. And so we're going to accelerate that amendment by a month. Everybody knows. And then if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to give me a call. I've shared with you the spending plan, and I have no problems sharing with you more current spending plan at any given time. Just so you know.
Charles, it's
Cheryl?
Dean Button.
Go ahead, Dean.
Yes.
Would you mind telling us what the revised final total is for 2022 balance?
Thank you, Dean.
Right now, I have 2.6 million. 2
Can you repeat
million,
that?
2.6 million.
Thank you.
And that includes right away for 45th Avenue, an extra $200,000 for right away for 45th Avenue, and the Willow Creek Phase 2. So, and if we put $750,000 in there for GPTC, that puts us at 1 million or $2,550,000.
Charles, do we need actions on those three projects? Aside from the Willow Creek project, since it wasn't in the NOFA.
I don't think we do need an action.
So Charles, when you made these changes, does this go then to TPC? What's the procedure here?
Most of these I'm going to I'll have to look at that, how they are in RTIP. And if they need an amendment, I'll work with the sponsors to get an amendment in RTIP. Or it'll either be an amendment or an admin mod. Okay. And I'll work with all the LPAs on getting that. So then, and when that goes through, then you'll need to get a FEMA's request. So.
And then if you could maybe talk the parallel track when the tip will be finally approved. I think last time we talked, you said February, maybe March.
Yeah, so actually that's kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but that's under other new business. I guess that's not really new business. It's kind of old business. We can talk about it now, or we can talk about it later.
Well, before we move on, I guess just for the record, are all the suggested changes that we discussed today included in the total balance? That is to say, you know, the Valparaiso 130 and 400, the Valparaiso TOD, the Crown Point $100,000 request for their project. Are all of those included in this new summary total?
Yes, I threw all those in there in the spreadsheet as we were talking. So the spreadsheet I
Excellent.
sent out this morning is outdated. I can send a new spreadsheet out after the meeting if you like.
I think we'd like.
I will get something out today or tomorrow. Okay. I will do my best to get it out today. You know what I'll just do? I'll just make sure I get it out today. So you may get it in your mailbox early tomorrow morning. I don't know what time I'll get to it, but I should get it. I'll get to it today, this afternoon. I will get it out to everybody today. And again, like I've said, as you saw, things that are highlighted are new. So I'll have to fill in some blanks And when I say blanks, I'm talking about project information, like I just have Crown Point down for 129,690. I know what it is. I just need to fill out in all the other information there. Okay.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate.
No problem. Moving on. Talk about some fun stuff. The NOFA. Let me share my screen again. Can everybody see that? Nope, no, you can't. Now you can. Everybody can see this?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So the NOFA 2022 NOFA, as we see, the title is Invest Northwest Indiana. So what's new this year? As you know, we've made some adjustments. We have as most of you know, there is a NOFA continuous improvement plan working group. That's not a secret. It's 12 individuals, including myself. I keep it small so that we can get some things accomplished. Usually when you get a much bigger audience, then sometimes you can't get agreements. So it's 12 people, but I do talk to people outside of that. Those of you that are not part of this, I probably talked to you about it and got some comments, got your thoughts on this. So just because it's small doesn't mean it doesn't involve you. I probably, like I said, I probably talked to you about something, got your ideas on something, especially if you've offered your comments before in the past, whether it's in a telephone conversation or email or in person or what have you. So this year, our goal is to get all applications. When you submit those applications, again, in the fall, right around mid-October, our goal is to have everything, your applications be 100% complete. In other words, if you need a road safety audit and you want HSIP funding, it is our goal to make sure that there's a road safety audit. And all the supporting documents. I don't want to have to run after people. Now, there are 3 people out there, and you know who you are. I'm not going to call you out, but there are 3 people out there who still owe me HSIP forms. So there are projects on the spending plan that are at 80%, and when I get those forms back and I can get them down to NDOT, then we can get the funds programmed for HSIP. So again, our goal this year is all the applications will be complete when they're submitted. We'll be doing road safety audits, as I mentioned. Right now, we are planning on doing those in-house. As I mentioned before, if you want a road safety audit, we'll be happy to do a road safety audit for you. And all it's going to cost is to send your city engineer or the ERC, whoever that is, as well as the one of your emergency chiefs or their deputies to talk about your project, whether it's intersection or what have you. Again, CMAQ calculations also need to be completed and submitted. One of the things that we discussed this year that we needed tightening, and I think we've all agreed on this in the past, that we need tightening on what exactly is a legacy project, what exactly is a transformational project, and what exactly is, how does PE and right-of-way funding fit into this? To begin with, transformational project, we've defined it as a project that is mentioned in NERC's long-range plan by name. Currently, there's 2 projects in there. That's Willow Creek Road and Kennedy Avenue. The transformational project may be part of a suite or portfolio of projects in a corridor. Obviously, these are bigger projects and they cannot be completed all in one time. Each phase must stand on its own when applying in the NOFA. So if you're putting in a project for phase 2, it must stand on you. So in other words, you can't put in the whole corridor to get any extra points. Some of the characteristics. We are going to have its own funding category in the NOFA. So that therefore apples and apples, apples will be competing against apples and oranges will be competing against oranges. Overall funding for this category would be limited to a percentage of the 5-year TIP. And it is not going to be encumbered more than $11 million in any year. This category may not be available in back-to-back years. So keep that in mind. It's not like we're going to be constantly taking from other projects. So I think the idea is to do it in every other year, so that way other projects can still work. We can still take care of what we have as we're expanding. Projects must be scheduled to let in July, the first month of the fiscal year. These projects, because of their size and their size and their notoriety, shall I say, have inherently more risk. So the idea is to mitigate some of that risk by scheduling them in for a July letting. Now, when you do your constructability reviews, they can start anytime, but we need to keep these in July. And this way, if they do happen to slide, they're only sliding a month or 2, and they're not moving, they're not risking by a March or an April letting. NERC is going to keep a limit on the number of transformational projects in the long range plan. So the idea is, as we finish these long range plans, these transformational projects in the long range plan, that we'll have other ones that can come up through the ranks. But we don't want to have in this own category, and if we go every other year, we don't necessarily want to have these projects just eat up everything, and we can't have, we actually want to complete these transformational projects. Other projects will compete in their traditional categories. We'll have a limit of $5 million. These are federal funds that can be awarded. Now, if you're asking for 5.1, that's fine. We're not gonna cap this off. It's not a hard cap. And then obviously funding in LaPorte County, which is group 2, will be adjusted accordingly. Right now they have only one transformation project, and they're working through that right now. PE and right-of-way, as I mentioned, so we do realize there is a symbiotic need for funding for PE and right-of-way. NERC enjoys having someplace to put those funds if we need them, as well as everybody enjoys receiving those funds. The LPAs will need to show an estimated PE and right-of-way totals in their application. I don't need to know your PR costs. I only care about your PE costs. And lastly, PE and right-of-way funds are not guaranteed. Some of the larger communities do not take PE or right-of-way. And in the past, some LPAs have gotten PE and right-of-way just to slide in the door and to become a legacy project. So PE and right-of-way will only be given on the basis of scoring. So we're intentionally not going to, we are not going to be we're not going to be just using up all the money that's left over. In other words, if I have $100,000 left over after the NOFA for any given year, I'm not going to give it to a project, or NERC is not going to give it to a project just because we have $100,000 to give. We'll float that over into something else, or we'll keep it on the books, and at the next NOFA, we'll add it. Let someone else. So these are not guaranteed. So in other words, you have to have your construction, and if we decide to award PE or right away, it will only be the next project down the list. Okay, so I would much rather give that $100,000 to a project or CN for a project in the hopes that maybe later on they can get the balance if they're willing to do that. But I think I beat that. Bridges will also become its own category. It is an important part of the roadway infrastructure. We recognize that. And a bridge, obviously, square foot by square foot, it is much more costly than a piece of roadway, but it is an important part of the roadway infrastructure. And it is our intent to go back to the previous practices of awarding one bridge per year or equal funding. So Lake County and Porter County can talk about what projects they want for bridges moving forward. The
Charles?
schedule for the NOFA,
Charles,
yes.
is the intent then to alternate between Lake and Porter County every other year, or let them work?
Yes, and I will let the Lake and Porter County work that out among themselves.
Thank you.
If they want to come to an agreement where someone gets two bridges and the other person gets two bridges the next time, that's up to them. So, but yeah, that's going to be the intent, that 1 year, an even number of years, one county will get one, and odd number of years, the other county will get the other. Schedule for the NOFA, March 31st, we are going to have a communities workshop. And in that, we're going to be talking several things. We're going to be talking about bundling, LPA partnerships. We've tried that in the past, but it's left a gaping hole. It hasn't really worked out the way we want. So what we're looking for is LPAs that come together and not just come together on paper. We'll be talking about safety in federal highway. There is a big push in the last 2 years about safety and HSIP funds and how we can get more safety projects into our TIPs. And not just NERC, but MPOs throughout, and STIPs too. MPOs and state DOTs throughout the country. We'll be talking about living streets, green infrastructure, CMAC applications. HIP applications, we'll be going through this on how to fill one out. The whole idea is that everybody starts thinking about their projects earlier that they want to submit. So it's not a big burden on consultants at the last minute, as well as LPAs at the last minute, trying to get projects completed and submitted earlier or at the last second, trying to get their applications done. The whole idea is that everything's going to be done. And I'll be working on the applications all summer long. But if you have a question, call me or talk to someone at NERC. We'll work with you and I will answer your questions to the best of our ability, the best of our knowledge. And that we can also meet after the application's open, but please, by all means, if you have a question, what we really want, as I mentioned, we want everybody to be submitting the best projects. Sometimes people just submit a project because it's, let's see if it sticks. So we want to get away from that because, it takes a lot of time and effort and money to put together an application. So this way you can kind of talk about it and think about it during the summer. Again, I said I'm going to be doing road safety audits this year, starting this year. Program funds for road safety audits, and we'll be able to take care of those for the LPAs. And hopefully we're looking to do those internally, but we might look outside of NERC to do those. And there, when we do announce those road safety audit, we'll be looking to do 5 or 6 in a day. We'll meet together and go through everything, and then we'll write up, do a road safety audit, do a write up and give it to you probably within a month or something like that. Other than that, the NOFA is going to be the schedule is going to be much like in past NOFAs. Mid-September through mid-October is going to be the application window. And then we'll also have, right after we put that application out online, we'll have another NOFA workshop where everybody can come and ask questions. We're still encouraging one-on-ones where if you have a question, please come in, meet with NERC staff. We'll walk you through, tell you what we're exactly looking for. Again, the idea is we want the best projects moving forward. Let's move. That's for the number 5. NOFA, are there any questions on that?
Charles, one clarification on that when you said for the transformational projects, you said no more than X million in a year, but I think we also discussed of the 5-year tip, only a certain amount will be allotted. And it'll be up to the order and the competition of those transformational projects, how it's spent. So it's not to suggest it's 50% every year. You mean, I think that was one thing the committee also came up with, that there's a limit within a certain 5-year block that how much money is available.
Right.
I mean, the goal was to give money to these transformational projects realistically without sacrificing too much on the more traditional projects.
Yes, we want to take care of what we have. We still want to grow. Realize that the transformational projects, they make Northwest Indiana a place that we all want to live and play and work. And we want to keep that up. And the idea is that transformational projects do help in that regard. So we do need to promote these, but yet we still need to take care of what we have and work on our roads, our intersections, make them safer for all the users, whether they're pedestrians, bicyclists, or people in cars, whether they're senior citizens or they're 16-year-olds or what have you. Anything else?
Charles, if
Yes.
I could, I had one item I wanted to bring forward to the committee regarding the local tracks projects. We have 4 communities that I know of that were awarded local tracks projects. I know for a fact that 2 of them grew in cost much greater than was expected by the communities when they were submitted. In the last NOFA, the town of Sherrville submitted a project or a request for some grant funding to help fill the gap in that. We were denied because we could not mix what was going to be state funds with federal funds for the funding. In December of last year, NDOT announced to us all that they will be using federal funds for the construction, the utility construction, and railroad construction. And we would be eligible to fill our gaps. I mean, and many of these projects, we were expecting 2 to 3 million turned into 6 to 7 million. But NDOT has cleared the way for us via our Friday quarterly tracking meeting last week that we will be able to supplement with MPO funds if they are available. Sherrville would be looking for approximately $1.16 million to fill our gap. That would
What year?
be in fiscal 24. Our letting date is 7/12 of 23 for that project. We would certainly, I want to forewarn you that we will want to discuss that at length at our quarterly tracking meeting on February 8th.
Okay. So that means in 2024, you're looking for 1.2 million?
Correct.
Hammond?
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, Hammond's in a similar situation. We're trying to appeal to NDOT to allow us to use our rescue plan money to match, but as you know, you can't match federal money with federal money. And so we've appealed to them at this point to try to get them to continue to use state money, since it was a state program that had funded this project originally, and it's been declared that the executive branch has made this decision. And so if in fact we are not allowed to use our ARP funds as we've set aside in an ordinance prior to this announcement by NDOT, that we would hope that the NERC and the LPA communities would be willing to consider a $2 million assistance from NERC to help fund the Hammond local tracks if we have to resort in using local funds for our match.
And that's also in 2024?
Yeah, right now it's same letting date as Jeff's in Sherrville. Although it's possible that it might move up a year based upon NDOT's engineers' suggestion about really how the progress of the project's moving forward. But right now it's July 12th of 23.
Okay. Hobart? Bill?
Was that, did you say Hobart, Charles?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, we have our quarterly tracking meeting tomorrow, but my understanding from the progress report is that we're within budget right now.
Okay.
I will let you know if anything changes, though.
Okay. Gary? Deb?
Yeah.
Deb Buckus?
Sorry, as I indicated in an email recently, are a couple of things I'm going to talk to you about offline, but we're set. Other than those questions, I'll talk to you about
Okay.
perhaps tomorrow. Thanks.
Okay. So we'll talk about those at the next T-Rock meeting. I'll make sure those are on the agenda. But thank you for asking about those. So moving on to other new business, Federal Highway has, it's not new, but highway safety, this isn't anything new, but there is an increase emphasis on this. They've asked me a couple times about how do we increase our safety funding in this area. So there's several different problems they're looking at. They want to identify different countermeasures, how to identify our suitability of pedestrian and bicycle environment, safe system intersections. These are programs that they have. Identify areas that need those. I have to do more research into these, but they do have a Vision Zero policy, and that's more where we know we're not going to ever get to zero, but we can strive to work towards zero. And they're also looking at a safe system approach. Safe system approach is an international program. It was started in, I want to say Sweden. And then of course it has expanded to the Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, as well as other countries in Europe. It basically looks at how to make the roadway safer for everybody, and how do we reduce the number of accidents and fatalities. And some of these are kind of low-hanging fruit, and the idea is to go after those first, and be looking at. And I think there's going to be a revision with the IIJA funds on the HSIP and how that's funded. This is the logo that they have, and there's 6 foundational principles. Deaths and serious injuries are unacceptable. Humans do make mistakes. Humans are vulnerable. Responsibility is shared. So this isn't something that is we can blame on the way the road is designed, or the speed is too fast, or cars aren't safe enough. So everybody shares in this. Safety is proactive, and redundancy is critical. In other words, we can reduce the speed, but as we all know, we can put up a new speed limit sign, but that doesn't mean people are automatically going to slow down. So there's the 5 spokes, or the elements. Safe road users, that's everybody. Safe vehicles, safer speeds, safer roads, and post-crash care. And that's basically getting the ambulances and fire trucks to their to the accident as quickly as possible and getting those people to hospitals as quickly as possible. Those are a lot of what I've been seeing on the horizon. And I really, those are, and I really think that when the regs come out with IIJA, there's going to be a lot more towards HSIP funding and in this area. I do know NDOT is looking at the HSIP qualifications. And I do believe that I did ask him about sidewalks. Sidewalks on busy roads. Not to point anybody out, but I am going to point you out, but Maryville has a project, sidewalks on US 30, or excuse me, on Broadway. And I asked if that would be eligible, and right now it's not. But they are looking as that might be, sidewalks might need to be part of roadway maintenance just as much as ADA ramps are. I don't know if we do any paving. We have to look at the ADA ramps, make sure they're accessible, and they're following PROAG. So there's been some thought that maybe, at least on the busier urban roads, that sidewalks should be part of HSIP and make that somewhat like a systemic idea. So more on that as we go along. If I find anything out more, I'll definitely let you know. Sidewalks on busy roads, I'm going to be pushing that still, because there's a lot of roads that we go down, the busy roads, and you wonder, why is that person walking in the middle of the road? Well, there's no sidewalks. So anyway, let's see what the agenda is. Local quarterly reports coming up, or on local quarterly meetings, I should say, on February 8th, the 10th, and the 15th. I think everybody has seen a quarterly meeting, the schedule. If you haven't, let me know. I'll get the schedule out to you. The reports were due last Thursday on the 20th. And in RTIP or LTAP. In RTIP, it shows that you need to do the report no matter what. But if the project's already completed and it's closed out, you don't need to do a report on it. Next, we still have the confusion with the TIP and the STIP. So as I've mentioned before, the 2022 to 2026 TIP has not been approved by Federal Highway because the STIP has not been approved by Federal Highway. So technically, we're still operating under the 2020 to 2024 TIP. And therefore, 2024 is an illustrative year, which means Federal Highway really doesn't look at that. But right now, all they're looking at is 2022 and 2023. Yeah, so everything we put in the NOFA last year is still in limbo. Now, NDOT is hoping that the STIP is approved sometime in mid-February. So I am taking that to mean that it should be approved by March 1st. So, and then when we get that, then I'm going to have to go through and make sure that everything is correct as put it in, and then I will submit probably an emergency amendment to change all those ones that that are not correct or should be changed, to make sure our TIP and the STIP line up. So again, please review your projects, especially if they're in 22 and 23. Make sure that they're correct. And the 3 amendments we've had amendment in July, September, and in January. Couple weeks last week, actually, on the 20th was the last one that's been approved. So far, none of those have been implemented into. I'm checking those weekly to see if they ever get in, when they get in. But if you're working on your NEPA document, in the past, I've told people to take a screenshot of RTIP to show that it's in there, and that's pretty much worked to get your environmental document going. So, is there any other new business? Okay, there's no other new business. Our next scheduled T-Rock meeting is going to be May 17th at 9 a.m. Other meeting dates as on the agenda I've shown are August 16th, November 8th, and February 14th of 2023. We're hoping for, as I mentioned, we're hoping for in person, but location and the format will be determined later on. Can't wait for the day when we can all get back and meeting face to face without affecting each other and become super spreaders. If there's no other new business, I move for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Charles. So moved.
Thanks, Charles.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Charles.
everybody on your projects.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Thanks.
Thanks to everybody.
Hey, Charles, can you hang on